Hi everyone! In this lesson, we'll be going over the basics of cymbal straps. Setting your cymbal straps up well are really important because they're a building block that allows you to be successful once you actually put your cymbals on and start playing. Now, there's two main materials that straps are made out of. They're usually made out of either nylon or leather. You can be successful as a cymbal player no matter what material you choose. However, I'll outline some of the differences between them. Leather straps have been the main material used throughout most of marching cymbal playing history. However, nylon has risen to popularity in the past 10 to 15 years. Generally speaking, leather straps tend to be favored by more West Coast style lines, while nylon straps have become more popular with more East Coast style lines. Over time, both will exhibit symptoms of wear and tear, and they will need to be replaced throughout the season. Leather straps are more prone to things like snapping, while nylon straps are more prone to fraying over time. Another thing that's led to the rising popularity of nylon is that it's relatively cheap and easy to make, especially if you buy your own roll of nylon and make it yourself. Another thing to consider is that while leather straps are typically just used by themselves, nylon straps are usually used in conjunction with some kind of cymbal glove or cymbal sleeve. Here are two examples of those. And generally, this is done to help reduce friction between the cymbal strap and your arm, and then also to help reduce nylon burns as well. So now that you've hopefully chosen your pair of straps, now I'm going to show you how to get your straps actually set up in your cymbals. So when you have your strap, you kind of want to put it, thinking about it in this U shape, where your hand's going to go in that way. So what we have to do first is to get the strap threaded through that little hole in the cymbal. So to start, we'll have to get our straps lined up so they're easy to go through. I like to fold it, so if you have it in this U shape, you put the outsides in, overlapping like this. Now, depending on what hand you want to go through this strap, you're going to fold them in slightly different ways. So let's say this is going on my right hand. What I'm going to do is take these two, which are together, I'm going to fold them over to the left side. So when you have the strap looking like this, you can see that the right side is over top of the left, right here. Now, if this were my left hand, I would do the exact same thing but reversed. So it would go over like this with the left hand on top. And that's how you can tell which cymbal goes in each hand, and also it's a little bit more comfortable as a cymbal player. So for the example's sake, let's say I'm doing this on my right hand. So I'm going to take the right side and cross it over with the left. And then we're going to line all of these guys up. All right, so we have our strap that's all lined up and ready to go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to thread it through this hole in the cymbal. Now, most marching cymbal lines also use pads in addition to straps, which looks something like this. For this example, because a lot of people use them, I'll go ahead and use this pad as well. But if your cymbal line doesn't use pads, you simply just thread it through directly like that. So for this, we have our pad, and we're going to thread this through just by pushing it in. And when it gets to this other side, we're going to try to keep the bunch in the exact same place and order and pull it through. And as you can see, we maintain that kind of overlap on this side of the pad. All right, now we're going to take our bunch, make sure it's all ready, and make it as small as possible. And we're just going to poke it through this side. Once we have it through, you can see it's starting to come out on the other side. So we'll just pull the strap through until we can't pull anymore. So on this side, it's probably starting to look a little bit normal, like an actual marching cymbal. Now on this side, we can begin to tie our box knot. So now that we've threaded our straps through the cymbals, we have to actually tie them in some kind of knot so that they don't slip through as we're playing them. Now, what we're going to be making today is something called a box knot, or sometimes known as a fireman's knot, after it's kind of box-like shape when it's done. And this is what most cymbal lines use to tie their cymbals. So to start, we're going to arrange our little straps into an X shape, something like this. Now, we're going to take any strap, it doesn't matter which one. Let's start in the top right corner. So we're going to hold it down, and we're going to fold it so that it kind of creates this 7 shape. And we want it to go so it lays across like this, and we get a straight line up top. All right, so now we want to take the next strap in the top left, which is the one we just laid over. And we're going to essentially create the same 7 shape, but now we're going to do it so it comes down on this side. All right, so as you can kind of see, we're starting to make the edges of the box. So here we have our top edge, and here we have our side edge. Now we're going to do the same thing with this one on the bottom left, which we just laid over with this one. So we're going to hold down and fold over again. We can move the bottom right one. All right, so now we have 1, 2, 3 sides of the box. And finally, we're going to take our last edge and we're going to fold it underneath this first edge. And we're going to pull it through. So as you can see, we now have all 4 sides of the box. And from here, we can just pull all these sides through by holding down in the middle and pulling out on the outside. And that will kind of make this box tighter. And it should look something like this in the end. Now that we have our straps threaded through the cymbals, now we need to actually put our hands in the straps. What I'll be showing you today is something called Garfield Grip. This is the most common grip used by cymbal players in the marching arts. So, to start, we need to locate our low crossover that we had when we were threading our strap. So, as you can see here, since we were doing the right cymbal, we have that right crossover again. Now, what you also need to look out for when you're threading your cymbals is that you're on the right side, so you're not doing this upside down. So, when you have your straps, essentially you can put the insides together like this, and if it slopes down like a roof, then that means you're on the right side. Now, let's say you were doing this upside down. If you were to put the insides together, it would slope inward like a V, and we don't want that. Because if we put our hand through the cymbal strap, then we get kind of this weird, uncomfortable knot thing up here, and it makes it harder for you to play. So if we go back over, we find our crossover, and we put the straps together, and it slopes down like a roof, then we're all set. So in order to thread our hand through the strap, we're going to think about kind of keeping an L shape. So we're going to stick our hand in through this right side, have our L shape, and now we're going to turn our hand over like this, and we're going to wrap it underneath. Now that we kind of have the middle of our hand between the little center part of the strap, we're simply going to push up like this. And now we have our hand in the strap. One thing to look out for when you're threading your hand through is this knuckle right here on the thumb. A lot of new cymbal players will thread their hands so the strap is over top of that knuckle. We really want to avoid that because that can be a place of injury if you play cymbals that way. So when you're threading, you really want to make sure you get this thumb knuckle around the strap so the knuckle is above it. You'll also want to make sure that your cymbal straps are the right tightness. Generally, when you're playing cymbals, you want to have your fingertips spread across the cymbal as much as you can so you have better control over the instrument. So, if you turn your cymbal flat towards the ground, you should be able to touch your cymbal with all of your fingertips. However, the strap should also be loose enough so that you can lift your fingertips up with relative ease. You don't want the straps to be too tight because that can cut off circulation to your hands, which can be very painful and not very helpful as a cymbal player. And you also don't want them to be too loose because that can cause you to lose some of the control you have with your fingertips. Here's how you can adjust your cymbal straps. Depending on how they fit, you're either going to want to loosen them or tighten them. If you want to loosen them, you're essentially going to want this part of the strap to come further out this way. And if you want to tighten them, you're going to want the strap to come further in this way. So let's start by loosening our straps. So we're going to flip over back to our box knot. Now we're going to take our knot and essentially we're going to loosen it by pulling at the center part. So now this is looser than we originally had it. Now we have to turn the cymbal back over, and essentially we're going to take our strap and we're just kind of going to jiggle it so it starts to come out. And now we can see the strap is much looser than it was before. Now if we want to go the other way and tighten it, we're going to flip over back to our box knot. And again, we're going to have to loosen the strap because there's no way to tighten it if it's already in like a very condensed form. So we'll loosen our edges. But this time, once they're looser, we're going to take our edges that are out here and we're going to pull them in so that they get longer. And if you need it to get even tighter, you just loosen it again. and repeat the process. And now you can see our straps are much longer than they were before. And if we flip our cymbal back over, it's now tight again. As you play your cymbals, generally the straps will get looser over time. Here's a couple of other tips to help you keep your straps tight. You can actually tie a second box knot over your first one using the excess edges of your original box knot. You can also tape the edges of your cymbal knot around. This will help keep it from falling through. You can also put a small object such as a penny in the middle of your knot, and that'll help keep it tight as well. Also, if you need a more drastic measure, you can do something such as cutting the slit further deep in your cymbal strap. Hopefully you found some of this information useful, and now you'll be ready to start picking up your cymbals.